Hi, everyone. Thanks for coming to my channel today. I've been speaking for years with people all over the world about porn, addiction, betrayal trauma, therapy, coaching, recovery, prostitution, human trafficking. I've spoken to authors, filmmakers, educators, and survivors, people who have worked in brothels, people who have been in porn movies and people who have been impacted by pornography. Today, I'm with Mandy. Hi, Mandy.
Hey,
How are you?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me on here. I'm
I'm
excited for this chat.
so happy to have you. Mandy interviewed me last time we talked. Now it's my turn. Mandy is the creator and host of the WTF Do I Do Now podcast. I love that name. You can sound that out yourself at home if you want. And we're going to talk today about the impact on a partner of secret sexual behaviors, pornography, cheating, affairs, sexting, all of that stuff. Mandy has been there and she has lived through this. Mandy was in a long term serious relationship with a guy who she thought she knew, who she loved, who she was going to spend the rest of her life with. And nothing was as it seems. Since then, she has become a trauma informed and women's empowerment coach with a background in meditation, breath work, and nervous system regulation. After going through this own horrific experience and her own betrayal trauma, she's now an anti porn advocate. And as I mentioned, made a podcast called What the F Do I Do Now, which helps women who discover their partner's secret porn addiction and raise awareness on the harms of porn in relationships. So, Mandy, let's pass it over to you and just give us an idea of where this amazing journey all started for you. And let's start with that.
All right. When you see amazing journey, what part do you mean? There's been so many journeys.
Well, let's take us from the beginning of being in a relationship with your
Okay. Yep.
ex
I can do. Yeah.
and finding out about his secret life.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
let's go from there. Let's start with that and go from there.
Yeah. So my it all started with Bumble, which an algorithm that really screwed me over. I met him on Bumble.
Okay.
Um, Very standard. It was during the pandemic.
Mm.
Yeah, I was living in LA at the time, and they
LA?
were in their second shelter in place, so we couldn't like go to restaurants or anything. So like him and I were just hanging out almost like every other day. We like hit it
Mm.
off very quickly, very fast. It
Okay.
was yeah, it all felt really good until it wasn't.
Okay. So you started dating, it quickly became exclusives, boyfriend, girlfriend kind of thing.
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. Looking back, it was a lot of love bombing, which I didn't know what love bombing was at the time, but now looking back and knowing what I know now, I'm like, wow, it was
Please explain love bombing. This is very important for people to know about.
love. I don't even know how to explain it, but the way I think of it, it was like him and I started talking, and he was just like going out of his ways to do the nicest things to me, like blowing up my phone with like all these sweet texts, like telling me how much he liked me, how special I am, like going like
Right?
planning these like amazing dates. Like one day he planned like an entire scavenger hunt around Los Angeles that took like 6 hours of all my favorite places. Like he was always showing up to my place with flowers, like doing just all these like grand gestures where I was like,
Okay.
oh, this guy like really loves me. Like something is really nice here.
Right.
Or once we started getting more into the relationship and like conflicts would arise,
Hmm.
it I would notice like the love bombing would then happen right like the day after where he would just like go all in. It was like anytime, and I'll get into this later, but like once the relationship got more serious and we lived in together and like things started happening in the relationship, anytime I was starting to like pull out a little bit, like I was like, oh, this isn't right. Like he'd come
Mm.
in with the love bomb and be like, oh, you mean so much to me, and like plan all these cute dates, like create these like he'd always like create like hand make like huge pieces of like furniture and just like weird things like that where it's like, wow, this guy's like really doing a lot. The furniture
Did
part was weird. That was
yeah,
like
did it
part of his
ever did
profession, but
okay, yeah. Did you think at any point like this is seems a bit much or a bit over the top, or did you just kind of soak it up?
honestly, I soaked it up
Mhm.
because I had gotten out of a like situationship with a guy where it wasn't like we weren't exclusive, but like he wasn't giving me a lot of attention. And so then I met my ex, now ex, and he was giving me so much attention and like
Mm,
treating me what I thought was right. So I was like, oh, this is what, like, yeah, this is how someone should treat me if they want to be with me.
sure.
That's how it felt.
Okay, sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you remember any of the particular phrases that he used? Like,
Mm,
I can't live without you. You're the most
for
amazing
sure.
woman I ever met. Like, just
Yep,
really over the
all of
top stuff.
those. I've never
Okay.
felt this way with anyone. Like you're the
Mm,
most important person in my life. I've never connected with
mm.
someone like this. Like
Okay.
I thought I knew what love was, but I didn't know what it was until I met you. Like,
Right. Okay.
yeah, yeah. And another red flag looking back was that he tried to become very exclusive very early on.
How
We
early?
met
Like
we met
weeks?
in no 2 or 3 months,
Okay.
which that's like pretty
Is that
quick for
quick?
the age. I
Is it?
was like I was 27 maybe, but yeah, that was pretty quick. Like I feel like usually it'd be like I feel like at 2 months you're still getting to know the person. So then to be like,
Mhm.
let's be exclusive, just me and you, I love you so much. And then he started
Right.
saying I love you really early on too.
Yep.
Um, but yeah, I was into it though. I was like, wow, this is the most perfect person.
Right.
But
Right. Okay.
now I know what to look for.
Yeah, and just to give a context from as a psychotherapist,
Hmm.
I hear stories similar to this and deal with what we would call a narcissistic personality disorders, narcissistic behavior.
Hmm.
And I just want to say a lot of people throw this term around. Please be careful throwing this term out. There's an actual specific clinical definition of a narcissist. We all fall on the spectrum somewhere. But having said that, this is a classic playbook right out of the narcissist playbook. And basically, there's three stages when you're in a relationship with a narcissist: love bombing, they use you, and they discard you. Those are the three stages.
Yep.
So I
I
want
can relate.
people, especially young women listening to this, if you're hearing from your partner the things that Mandy's saying right now, you really need to sit up and pay attention. This is not normal behavior. There is an agenda. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
I can
So
relate
what,
to.
how long
Mhm.
till you moved in together?
Another love bombing thing. We were probably a year into dating. We moved in together, which
Hmm.
again, even at the time, I was like, this feels a little early.
Hmm.
But I guess it's kind of normal for like living in LA, rent's really expensive. We were like, I
Sure.
was sleeping at his place every night regardless. So he's like, why don't we just move in together? And I
Hmm.
was a little hesitant. And then obviously he talked me into it. And
Hmm.
looking back, I'm like, my gut was telling me something wasn't right. But
It was. Your gut was
yeah,
telling you.
yeah. Hmm.
Mm, yeah. Did you talk to anyone like a friend, a family member, be like, yeah, something doesn't quite feel right here?
Yeah, so I actually started seeing a therapist a year into us dating. So actually, this might be helpful context about we moved in together in February, and the December before, a girl reached out to me from his past that was like, "Hey, be cautious of this guy. He's not who you think he is." And I was like, "Whoa,
Interesting.
very interesting."
Interesting. Okay. How did she
Yeah.
find you?
Um, so him and I went to Mexico for my birthday trip. Again, like should have known like if someone's taking you to Mexico, that's a little bit of love bombing. But so we were there and I was just I don't know, this is embarrassing, but I was nervous like what if something happened to me in Mexico? So I put my Instagram on public. And so found me, she found his friend's Instagram and then saw a comment that I left on a photo of him and his friend. And then
Okay,
she
so
reached out to
she
me.
just tracked you down through social media or
She
phone
was a smart
pictures
girl
or
and knew what to do. Yeah,
yeah,
any girl could
it's
figure
not
it
that
out.
hard in this
No.
day and age to really find someone online, right? Mm,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. So she reached out, basically warned me about all this stuff. I was like, I don't know what to believe right now because he hasn't shown me any of that before. I confronted him about it. That was the worst trip of my life. I had horrible panic attacks every day. It's like I'm in a foreign country with a man. I have no idea who he is. And this
Oh,
girl is telling me to literally run. And
oh.
yeah,
So she's
yeah.
texting you on your
She
phone
was,
while
she,
you're in Mexico with this
Well, I
guy
was
saying
mixed.
run.
Yes. Yeah, she was messaging me on Instagram and he played the typical, oh, she was crazy, like she did all this, blah, blah,
Mm.
blah. And usually I never believe a guy when he says that because to me, I'm always like, what did you do to make her crazy? That's my stance on it. But I believed him. He got like his whole family involved. It was this whole ordeal. And I essentially decided to believe him. He showed like a lot of like proof that maybe she was crazy. And so that was 2 months before we were about to move in together.
Okay.
So as soon as I get home from that trip, I call my mom and sister, talk to them about it. They're like, yeah, this is kind of weird, but like he's such a good guy and everyone loves him and he treats you so well and like he's clearly madly in love with you. Like this just isn't adding up with who he's shown everyone to be.
So
I was
he
like, I
fooled
know
everybody. He pulled everybody in. Your family.
everybody. Like,
They're
yeah,
great
and he
actors,
was
aren't they? Very, I bet he's
amazing
very
actors,
charming, funny,
so charming,
personable, right?
thoughtful,
Yeah,
funny, like got along with everyone. And
right.
yeah, whenever he would do these like grand displays of like love bombing, he always like put them on Instagram for everyone to see. So like
Of
everyone knew what
course.
he was doing.
Of course. Yeah.
Um, yeah, so I talked to my mom and sister about it. They're like, I don't know, but like he's so great. And I was like, yeah, I know, but like my gut was telling me something isn't right.
Okay.
I end up deciding to like put that behind us. I enroll into therapy immediately because I'm like, I need to talk to
Oh,
someone about
okay.
this.
Okay.
Yeah. Who ironically happened to be she focuses on like intimacy and also porn addiction and sex addiction,
She
which I didn't know
does.
at the
Okay.
time.
Did you
Yeah.
even know there was such a thing as being addicted to porn?
No, and I didn't know that I didn't know
Oh,
that she did specialize this until
oh,
after I found out everything because because I saw her throughout this whole thing.
okay.
Um, and then at the first session we had after the breakup, I told her and she's like, I specialize in this, right? And I was like, I had no idea. No fucking idea. So that was just like a blessing from the universe.
Wow.
Um,
Cool. Cool. Okay.
yeah, I feel like
Yeah.
I've gone on a tangent. I don't know where I was
No, well, I'm just
going
gonna
with
say
this.
another classic red flag is narcissists. The exes are always crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy ex. It's a cliche almost. Though every girl they date, they talk about their crazy ex because it makes them
Mhm.
look good. Makes them look good.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I've even heard from other people that my ex has been calling me the crazy one. So I'm like,
Oh,
what?
you are the crazy ex now.
I am the
Sorry.
crazy
Yeah, you
one.
have no
Yeah,
choice. You're the
I
crazy
am
ex.
batshit crazy. Everyone watch out for
You
me.
are
I will
loopy,
ruin your life.
loopers. Yeah. Oh yeah. Stay away from you. Stay away from
Yeah.
Mandy. No matter what you do, don't go near her. Right. Okay. Okay, so
Nope.
love bombing, you're soaking it up. The gut's telling you something's not quite right, but you're in it now, kind of going along, right? Swept up, going along for the ride. You move in to his place, you move into, is it his place you move into, or do you get your own place? Yeah. Oh, hello, you there?
Uh-oh.
Oh, what
It just
happened?
froze for a little bit.
Yeah. Okay, so I was saying,
I don't know.
hello,
Yeah.
you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Oh, okay. So I was saying, um, you move in together, something doesn't seem quite right, but you're sort of in it now, you're caught up, swept up in the whole thing.
Hmm.
And now what happens? So you're living together. Now what happens?
So we move in together. Something that I think would be helpful context for any women who are listening.
Cat.
Before we were living in together, sex was always an issue in our relationship in terms of we were rarely having it. Like even when we first met, there wasn't like that honeymoon phase, like you can't keep your hands off of each other. Like we would maybe have sex like once every 2 weeks.
Oh,
And
wow.
yeah, and I was always the one to initiate it, always.
Oh,
Well, and
okay.
I would say 85% of the time.
Mm.
And so before we moved in together, like I'd say the last, like say 5 months, I would have conversations with him where I'd be like, hey, I feel like I'm the only one initiating sex. Like, is something wrong? Like, I want to have more sex. Like this is a really low amount compared to that I've had in previous relationships. And I just like want to make sure we're on the same page. Like, can you start initiating it more? Like, oh yeah, sure. Like of course, like whatever. It was pretty chill about it. Um, it would changes would maybe last for a week or two, and then it was back to the same thing. So my self-confidence really started to go down. So like, why does my boyfriend not want to have sex with me? This is weird.
Mhm.
So then we move in together, and I would say that's when it started to become more of an issue. Um, there's so much leading up to this. I'm trying to think of where the best place is to start.
Sure.
Um, so okay, so we move in together. I have to keep having the conversation about like, can you initiate sex more? What's going on? And then I'm trying to get the timeline straight in my head. Ah, he starts to get erectile dysfunction. This is when
Ah,
things really started, where I was like, this is
something's up
weird.
here. Something's going on.
Something's up. Yeah. But
Mhm.
again, I didn't know about porn-induced erectile dysfunction. That was not on my radar at all. So I was
Mhm.
like, weird, he must be like really anxious, or I don't know. It's a me thing. Like it has to be me. So the erectile dysfunction happens a few times and he's fine. Like, I'm gonna go get help for it. So he goes to a doctor, gets a medication for erectile dysfunction, and that seems to like help things. Like we're fine, back on track, still not having sex very often. But I was like, you know what? He's like my absolute best friend. He means the world to me. We have so much fun together. Like, if he just doesn't want to have sex, like maybe he's anxious about sex. He also was a very anxious person, was like always having panic attacks.
Oh,
So it's like
really?
maybe
Mm.
sex, yeah, which
Mm.
now I know why, because he was living a double life. But
Mhm.
yeah, so he'd have panic attacks often. And because he would have panic attacks, I started to like start to notice when he would get really anxious so I could pick up on it, so I could like
Okay.
provide and help him. And I noticed before he'd have sex, he would get really anxious and he would do like he would always like pinch his shoulder or his arm and like just do weird things. And he would do that before a panic attack and before sex. So I was like, something's off. What's going on?
Right. Right. Okay.
Yeah. And then
Did you ask him about it? Like, hey, why do you seem so anxious about sex? Why are you pinching yourself? Or, you know?
um I asked him why he pinches himself when he's anxious, and he said it just helps him like kind of ground in a way.
Okay. Yeah.
But I never asked him about it with sex.
Hmm.
So in my mind, I was like, maybe he's just a really anxious guy. Sex
Hmm.
makes him anxious and he prefers porn. Like
Yeah.
maybe that's it. Like whatever.
Okay.
Um, but then we go to hook up one time. He was coming back um from the bar with his friend. So he has a few drinks in him and he couldn't get hard. I was
Mm.
like, why can't you get hard? Like this is getting really frustrating. Like it every time it would happen, we'd get into a fight because he would get like super mad at himself and he'd like storm off and throw a tantrum like a fucking child. Sorry.
Okay.
And then I would just like take it personally, be like, oh man, what's wrong with me? What's wrong with my body? What's happening? Like I would internalize it as something's wrong with me. So
Yeah. Interesting
this
that you
final
did that
time,
because
he can't get
there's,
hard.
yeah.
And
Yeah. No, it's interesting that you internalize that because it had nothing to do with you
oh,
ever. None of it had anything
yeah.
to do with you.
Yeah.
It was
And
him.
and he was, yeah, and he was nice and kind. He's like, it has nothing to do with you. Like, this is so embarrassing on my behalf. Like, you're great. Like, he would be nice about that. But still, I'm like, you could get hard for me before. Now you can't get hard for me. You
Right.
also rarely want to have sex with me. Like, I'm always asking to initiate things. So of
Yeah.
course, at the end of the day, I was like, what's wrong with me?
Yeah.
And on top of that, like I'd already been spending like hundreds of dollars on lingerie and sex toys to like try to get him to be interested in me, and nothing was working.
Okay.
So so this last time he can't get hard and he's kind of tipsy and he's like, oh, I watched porn today. And in my mind, I was like, has all of this been happening because of fucking porn? Have you not
Yeah.
been wanting to hook up with me
Yeah.
because of porn? And
Okay.
I didn't say anything to him at the
You
time because
didn't.
I was just so, no, I
Okay.
was just so caught off guard. I didn't have the self-confidence.
Okay.
Also, like keep in mind, I've been in a relationship with a guy who has like narcissistic tendencies. So like my self-esteem already was so low.
Okay.
But that started putting like the light bulb in my head to be like, what's going on with porn? And so from that moment on, I started having conversations with him about porn.
Okay.
Um, and So I knew he watched porn in the beginning of our relationship.
You did.
Um,
How
I
did you
did.
know that? How did you know that? Did he tell you? Did you ask him?
I don't fully remember, but something I've always done in the past with boyfriends, because I always want to get a gauge on how much they watch porn, is I'm like, oh, it's like how many times like a day do you watch porn? Like I just go like that, and then they go, whoa,
Yeah.
what? Like, and I just assume for the worst, and then
Hmm.
it's usually they'll be like, oh, like not that often, not that much, like maybe a few times a week. Like okay, so I know I did that with my last ex, and he
Yeah.
was like, oh, every now and then, whatever, and then I don't know how, but somehow. Like I remember one day he was showing me this porn video, not for us to like watch it together, but like to like make fun of this video, like the acting in it before they get into like the sex. Because it was a joke that him and his guy friends would always say it together. And I was like, what is this joke you guys keep saying? He's like, oh, do you want to see? So ironically, this like porn video came a joke in our relationship. Now
Okay.
looking back, I'm like, that's I don't know, tangent there. But where was I going next? Oh yeah, so I knew he had watched porn. And then when we started living together, and then he mentioned the porn thing, I was like, what? Like, how often do you watch porn? Like, what's going on with porn? He's like, oh no, like I just don't watch it very much. I was like, okay, because I feel like that's what's ruining our intimacy. I was like, I completely stopped masturbating throughout the relationship because I like I'd rather have a sex drive and spend it on you. So like,
Yep.
can you do the same?
Yep.
And he didn't really understand.
Mm.
Um,
Okay.
and
He
yeah.
didn't understand, right?
No, yeah, every time we probably had maybe like I want to say 3 to 5 conversations about porn where I'd be asking him to stop watching it or I'd tell him how I felt about it. And then it wasn't till like, and again, I was working with this therapist who actually helped me like build up the courage to talk to him about porn.
Okay, good,
Because
good.
because I didn't want to be like I don't know, porn is just so normalized in our society where it's like,
Yes.
oh, like that's just what guys do. Like guys are gonna be guys. It's not a big deal. It's just a girl on the screen. Like it's harmless. And like you're a prude if you care that your boyfriend watches porn. Like you must be so insecure. Like all like those are all the thoughts that were going into my head because that's just what you hear.
Yep.
Um, and so finally working with this therapist, she helped me build up the courage. And I remember in a session, she was like, do you like that he watches porn? And I was like, no. And she's like, do you feel like he's cheating on you? And I was like, yeah. Like it was such a light bulb moment. She's like, is
Mm-hmm.
it hurting your self-esteem? And I was like, yeah. And she's
Mm-hmm.
like, do you want to talk to him about it? And I was like, no. And she just looked at me and she's like, okay, we have more work to do. But eventually, like I came to the realization, like, yes, it feels like he's cheating on me. I know he's not hooking up with me because he's going to watch porn. I had no idea how often he watched it or any of that, but I knew the
Well,
reason
he
he didn't
would
have
be
a sex
lying.
drive.
He'd be lying to you anyway about it. He was lying to
Right.
you the whole time about it, right?
Completely. Yeah. But I
Yeah.
knew he didn't have a sex drive
Yeah.
because like he didn't want to be hooking up with me. He wasn't initiating sex because he was just going to a stupid phone
Jerking
and
off to
jacking
porn
off.
every day, probably. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, so,
Yeah.
ugh. Yeah.
And by the way, they've studied this, and the vast majority of women, Mandy, is it's something like 75 or 80% feel like their partner watching porn is cheating. That's that's how it
Yeah.
feels to them, right? So you're not an
Mm-hmm.
outlier. You're not the exception there. That's the rule.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's even now I've been out of the relationship for like over a year, but even seeing like hearing stats like that is still helpful. Because I
Hmm.
remember when so I found out he had OnlyFans. So I'm kind of jumping around everywhere, but let me
Yeah.
know if you like okay. So I
Well,
found
yeah, I
out he
just
had
I just want to get into the unfold because now you've cracked the
yeah,
lid open. Okay. So
yeah.
and now I'm sure it's going to unfold from there.
It'll
More and more
unfold
things
soon.
are going to come out. So let's just keep going
Yeah,
with the unfolding of the
yeah,
yeah, the
yeah. The volcano is about to erupt.
okay.
Um, so I found out he had OnlyFans, and this had been the OnlyFans, that was when I was like, porn has got to fucking go. Fuck that. Like I was so hurt about OnlyFans. And I accidentally saw it on his phone one time. He was like showing me something, pulled up the internet, and then OnlyFans was right there. And I was like, oh my God, you use OnlyFans? Like it was just like that felt like such I like
What was
hold
it?
my body still.
Yeah, what was the
Because
difference between?
So
Porn and OnlyFans. Emotionally
yes,
to you, what was the impact?
yeah. So to me, I was very oblivious to what porn was. I,
You
honest to
were.
God, thought, yes, were. Now I know because I've researched it a lot. But to me, when a guy said he watches porn, what I imagine in my head was, okay, he goes to Pornhub, he clicks the first video that's on the screen, he jacks off for like 3 to 5 minutes, he's done and goes on about his day. Like I thought there was like, it was short, simple, that was
Yeah.
it. And it was just
And
like this cute little love scene of
okay.
people having sex.
So you thought it was about people having sex. It wasn't just a video of a woman. It was people having sex, like a guy and a girl, one guy and one girl having sex, and that was
Yes.
porn.
Yes. And
Okay.
just sex on a bed, like that's it. Like I was
Okay.
so oblivious to what it actually was. But then what I thought OnlyFans was like, that's just like average everyday girls doing whatever the fuck they want with their bodies, guys messaging them one on one, like asking for content. Like
Yeah.
that felt more emotional because porn to me felt like porn stars were these
Hmm.
like so elaborate and
Hmm.
whatever fancy girls,
Hmm.
and you can't talk to them. It's very
It's more
siloed.
abstract and detached, kind of, right? It's
Yes.
like a
And like
celebrity, like
tacky.
okay, yeah,
Yeah. Whereas OnlyFans felt like this is
personal,
everyday girls,
yeah,
like,
and
and
you're
he loved.
communicating with them in real time,
Yes,
yeah.
right. And it's like you could meet
Well,
up
you
with them.
think
You
you are
could follow
anyway,
them on Instagram. Yeah, you
yeah.
think you're talking to them, but it's
Yeah,
just
you're
those
actually talking to a
fake people in
40-year-old
the
bald guy in the
Philippines.
Philippines. Yeah, yeah. We
Yeah,
know from Victoria. Thank you for
right. Thank
enlightening
you,
us on
Victoria.
that. Yeah,
Yeah,
Victoria
so you're not
Sims.
actually talking to the girl, but the guy
No,
thinks they're talking to the girl. So
right.
that's why it felt like such a distinction where I was like, you could be following these girls on Instagram, you can meet up with them, like what, like that just felt like such an evasion. Where it was like growth. And to me, I just didn't think men who were in relationships used OnlyFans because I I just thought they were so opposite. But I'll know that's not true now. So OnlyFans was the big catalyst. That's when I finally spoke to my therapist and was like, can we like role play how I can talk to him about the fact that I don't want
Right.
him watching porn anymore? So we role played it for a few sessions.
Oh, wow.
Um,
Okay.
yeah, which is so weird to think looking back. Whereas now, if I were to date a guy, I'd be like, we are talking about this right now.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
Um,
it's interesting because it's like she helped you find your voice, really.
she
Like
did.
she helped you put words to all the feelings that you're in because you went from such a
Yes.
place of like it was to a lot of partners, the depth and scope of porn, never mind sexting, texting, dating apps,
Hmm.
OnlyFans, cam girls,
Yeah.
is absolutely shocking to them.
Yes, like
The-
even now
yeah,
learning about porn, I'm like, whoa, I had no idea sex chats or like webcam girls existed. I was like, what the
right.
fuck? Like,
Yes.
yeah, I had no idea.
Yeah.
Um,
And also a lot of them of they're unaware or naive about the absolutely brutal, degrading,
uh,
misogynistic, abusive nature of pornography,
the the
it,
violence of
the
porn that
violence of it. Yeah.
I genuinely think that's the biggest reason I'm so anti-porn is I wish I would have known how violent porn is. Like I
Hmm.
think the stat is anywhere between 35 to 88% of porn scenes contain violence or aggression, and
88%.
97, yeah, and 97% of the time it's against women.
Yeah.
So
And they appear neutral or like they're enjoying it.
yes,
So it's literally wiring the arousal template of the man to connect sex and violence and brutality and fuse it together. And so that is what they are aroused by. So it's
yeah,
shaping the arousal templates of millions of guys.
yeah, it's literally normalizing sexual violence and saying that's
Yeah.
what you should get off to, and that girls like it.
Yes.
And like, uh, yeah, I could go
Well,
on
yeah,
such a
I
rant.
use this analogy. I might have said this in our interview, I don't know, but imagine you hear screaming from your neighbor's house. So you go over and you see a guy, two guys, let's say a husband and a friend, and they are beating, punching, kicking, and hitting this woman. Okay, what would we
Hmm.
call that? What would we call that?
Violence, abuse.
Assault, abuse, it's
Yeah.
criminal behavior, and we would call the police. Okay.
Hmm.
But hold on. Now we strip everyone naked, bring cameras in, throw in some sexual penetration, and we call it porn.
And it's
What
okay for guys to
the
watch it. Yeah.
what is that? What the
Yeah.
is that all about?
Mm-hmm.
So it's
Mm-hmm.
filmed rape, and that's why I mean the word porn doesn't even mean anything anymore. I don't in a way I don't even
No.
like using it because it's like what are you talking about exactly? You know?
Yeah. Yeah. I'd rather call it, oh, do you watch rape every day? Like
Yeah.
it's,
Filmed
oh my
rape?
gosh.
Is it a
Uh-huh.
gangbang? Is it 50 guys ejaculating on a woman's face in a circle while she cries?
Yeah. It,
Or is it a guy girl on a bed having, just normal vanilla sex? It's all of it. But
mhm.
it's when people are like, well, you know, like you hear people defending porn. It's like, well, porn, I don't think porn is inherently bad. And I'm like, well, what do you mean exactly? Torture
Yeah.
porn? Rape porn? Incest porn? Stepdaughter porn? Teen porn? Should I go
Bestiality.
on? Should I go on? Like
Yeah.
what exactly do you mean, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's vicious. It's
It's
demonic to
it's
me.
it's actually it's nauseating to actually I think I would be unethical to do this as an experiment, but I've thought about bringing in a bunch of old seniors, 80-year-olds, 75, 80, 85-year-old people and show them just a clip from Pornhub. Let's get a little bit of everything, teen porn, gangbang, a bit of rape and torture, incest, and show them to them and film their reactions. You'd probably see vomiting, passing out, nausea, crying, and trauma if
Oh,
you showed them this
yeah.
stuff, right?
Yeah.
And 12-year-olds are gobbling it up.
That's the most saddening thing to me is how young these kids are seeing the most intense, extreme porn at such a young age. Like their brains aren't developed and they're not
Right,
talking to anyone about what real sex is. And oh,
right.
it's yeah, my
Okay,
heart
so
goes
let's
out to
circle
those kids.
back to
Yeah, yeah.
you're finding your voice. I love it. I love
Yes.
this
Yes.
therapist, whoever you are, if you're watching this, well done. Thank you. We need 1,000 more like you out there.
Yes.
So she helps you find your voice. So then what? So you go back and I guess you have it out with them, right?
So I have the conversation and I say, I don't want you watching porn anymore. And he gets defensive. He gets angry. The conversation did not go well. I am full blown in tears crying. I'm like, it feels like you are cheating on me every time you're watching porn. It feels like my body isn't good enough. It feels like, why do these girls have to be in the picture? And he would always be like, well, they don't mean anything. Like there's no emotion. Like it's just what guys do. And I would always be like, not always, but I was like, if they don't mean anything to you and
Then
you're
stop.
seeing me sitting here
Mhm,
crying to you,
mhm.
telling about how bad it hurts me, fucking get them out. Like why are they in here if it doesn't mean anything to you? Like they have no place here. And yeah, the conversation, we had to have that conversation twice. So okay, so we had that conversation. Finally, he's like, okay, yeah, I get it. Like, yeah, I'll stop. Like, sweet, wonderful, like how amazing.
He's lying though, isn't
And
he?
yeah, the very next day, I go to walk our dog, like on my lunch break for work. We both worked from home. I go to walk the dog. I come back and I go in our bedroom when we are living together. And the bed, like the side that he lays on, was like the covers were pulled over. He had like a cum rag on the ground. And I was like, he was seriously just masturbating when I left like 15 minutes. So I come back. He's sitting at the desk, his desk where he's working. I was like, did you just watch porn? And he's like, oh, I must have forgotten to clean it up. And I'm like, yeah, and he must have forgot about a conversation we just had yesterday. Like, what's going on? So we have that whole conversation all over again. And I kid you not, it felt like hours of me just sitting and crying and being like, I can't do this. Oh, it was horrible. It's like, why these girls? Why not? Like, what is wrong with me? Like, I could not understand what was so wrong with my body, what was so wrong with having sex with me. I was like spending so
Oh,
much money on toys and lingerie, like everything. And
what was his response? He'd just sit there and look at you or
yeah, he would just sit there and look at me for a lot of it. And then he would just be like, no. He always had excuses. So his excuse was like, oh, well, like I only watch it when I know we're not going to have sex that day. And I was like, we are never having sex and I'm always home and asking for you regardless. And he's like, oh,
so
well,
that's
like
every
I was
day
really
basically.
Yeah. And I was
Mhm.
like, and yeah. And I was like, and then he was like, oh, I was really stressed. Like I had an interview and like, yeah, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, again, I have been home literally all day, was going to be home all day. Like, why? I am here as like, I want to be the one to have sex with you. Like, I want us to have that intimacy and that connection. Like, why? Where's the disconnect here? I was not understanding it. And I
Sure.
wish to God I knew that porn addiction was a thing, because then I think I would have handled the conversation so much differently. Whereas I just didn't know. I just inherently believe that something is wrong with me. He won't have sex with me, so that's why he's going to porn.
So I want to just interject for a second. You women
Hmm.
watching this, the problem is not your body, it's
Hmm.
his brain.
Yes.
It is nothing to do with you. Porn addiction is real. Okay. There's
Hmm.
people that argue against it. There's even therapists and psychologists out there that say this isn't a thing. I don't believe they are correct. Me and thousands of therapists that do what I do every single day, I've been doing this for 13 years, talk to men all the time who meet all the criteria for an addictive behavior. Okay. And what that means is they will, it is chronic and progressive, and it will
Hmm.
never, ever change or improve until they acknowledge they have a problem and they go into what we call recovery. So
Yes.
I've talked to women who have got boob jobs, Mandy, dyed their hair blonde, got liposuction, bought the toys, bought the lingerie. None of it helped because it was never you. It was never
Hmm.
them to begin with.
Yeah.
It is
It'll
the
never be
addiction.
enough. Yeah.
You'll never be enough, but you
Hmm.
are, but you
But
are
yes, but
enough,
you are enough.
more
But
than
what?
enough,
Yeah.
right? And I want women to take that away from this that are watching. You are fine the way you are. You don't need to change anything. The problem was never about you. And here's the thing, Mandy, the girl before you, he did the same thing too. And whatever
Hmm.
poor victim he's with now, he's doing the same thing to her.
Hmm.
So it really isn't you. No matter
No.
who he was with, he would have been doing this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And thank you that I'm so glad you interjected about the telling women like it has nothing to do it has absolutely nothing to do with you. And I've finally come to terms with that. And I think that was the most helpful thing in my healing journey was finally, no, it has nothing to do with me and everything to do with how his brain has been wired from watching porn.
And I want to give you a story from a neurological perspective that explains this. It's you've heard the butterfly story?
Mm-mm.
This is a
Oh, the
real
supernormal
study,
stimulus.
super normal stimulus.
Hmm.
This
Yeah.
is a real study of a scientist was studying butterflies mating, and the female butterflies are very bright and colorful. And he thought, what if I build brighter, bigger, more colorful butterflies out of paper and put them in the cage? What will the male butterflies do? Do you know what they did?
They only paid attention to the fake cardboard butterflies.
Right. They ignored the real butterflies. Sound familiar?
Hmm.
Here's Mandy
Hmm.
going, I'm right here practically begging for sex, and you're
Literally
literally
begging for
ignoring
a
me
second. Yeah.
because you cannot compete with the super normal stimulus. And so, in this cage, let's say that this world, this cage that we call the world, thousands of trillions of butterflies have been put in,
Hmm.
and men are driven by, we call it a supernormal stimulus because it's super normal. It doesn't exist in the real world.
Hmm.
And so you're saying, well, so what? Because we are wired in our reward center of our brain to notice, pursue, and be attracted to that automatically and unconsciously. Period.
Yeah.
That's
It's
it.
yeah, it's heartbreaking.
It is.
I feel yeah. I
Okay,
feel
so
bad. Yeah.
I'm hearing minimizing, excuses,
Excuses.
rationalizing his behavior, no ownership, no empathy, gaslighting you. Do you know what?
Yeah.
Should we talk about gaslighting a little bit? Maybe explain that.
Um, Gaslighting is basically when someone is denying the reality of what is happening. Like for example, my ex, me saying stop watching porn and him been
I
like
never said that.
knowing, fully knowing that he had a porn addiction.
Yeah,
Like, I guess that would more so be lying. But yeah, saying like I never said that or that's not what happened. Like,
I didn't mean it.
yeah, yeah,
Hmm.
that was a big portion of the healing journey coming out was looking back at the relationship, finding out everything that I found out, and then being like, wow, he was gaslighting me in so many situations. And the irony was, I was actually teaching him what gaslighting was. Like when we would see it in shows, I'd be like, see, that's gaslighting. See, that's gaslighting. I was trying to educate him on it and
Right.
like teach him like what mansplaining is and all of that. And little did I know I was getting gaslit and lied to and manipulated the whole time.
Did
The
you ever hear
irony.
things like, oh, you're overreacting?
All the time.
Oh, you're
All
so
the time.
emotional. Oh my God, calm
Oh,
down. Why are you so emotional?
yeah. The
Yeah.
last
Why are
the
you
last
so
fight we got
insecure?
in.
Why are you
Uh-huh.
so insecure?
The last
Uh-huh.
fight we got in, all those were said. He was like dating
Yeah.
me was like dating your emotional Tetris. I don't know how to deal with your emotions. To me, I was like,
Right.
just have some emotional maturity.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah.
heard all of that.
Yeah.
But again,
So
in the
by the way,
time,
that's all a tactic to deflect back to you. Anything but talk about my actual issue.
mhm,
Anything but actually make me take ownership for my behavior.
yes,
So if you're a partner
everything.
listening to this and you're relating to what we're saying, there's a problem here and you probably need to run like hell.
Yeah,
Mhm.
everything was always turned around me no matter what. And again, my self-esteem has gotten so low to that point being in this relationship where like I was like, you're right, it is my fault. Like I'd be so understanding, like, you're right, you're right, it was me, me, me. It's like I would always take the blame for that. And that was something else my therapist was working with me on. She's like, did you do this? What he said you did. And I was like, no. She's like, then why are you taking blame and ownership for it? You did not do it. I was like, I know, but I'd rather just like end the fight and just get this over with because I'm so sick of the conflict.
Yeah. Felt like you're talking to a wall, probably, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
And then you add the love bombing into it still.
Did
So
he still do
like
that?
he was like love bombing throughout the entire
The whole,
relationship.
oh.
It
So after
never
you
really
gave him
stopped.
shit for looking up porn again, did he like bring you a gift the next day or spam you with
Um,
love texts or
no, no. I guess I would say the last like 5 or so months of the relationship, the love bombing went down a lot.
so the
So
discarding process started there,
the
right?
discarding process
Mhm.
for sure started. Yeah, that's
Mhm.
a really good point.
Mhm.
Um,
So from his perspective, it's you're useful to me as long as you let me do what I want when I want. Do not question or challenge me, and I will tolerate you, for doing that. And as soon as you go against that, this is any woman who thinks they're in a relationship with a narcissist, okay? As soon as you challenge the status quo or rock the boat, you are discarded because you're no longer useful
mhm.
to them. You're a
Yeah,
supply. We call that supply, and that there's a cycle, right? To the narcissist, you're simply a way to feel something because they're dead inside. They feel nothing inside.
yeah, yeah. Towards the last few months of the relationship, when we would get in fights, the love bombing had stopped, and I felt so worthless as a human after those fights because he wouldn't even fucking acknowledge me. Like there would
Wow.
be times I was crying so hard and I'd be like, I need to get out of this apartment, and I'd just walk out
Mm,
of the apartment crying and like no word from him. Like I would be gone for
no
like
empathy.
hours, like going to a friend's house. He would never follow up on me, nothing. And then I'd come
Mm,
back in and he wouldn't even look at me. Like no. It was
right.
crazy. It was like, whoa, like I've never, it was
That's
such a
because
like
that's because
bayonet
they,
switch of a person.
yeah, and then they act like nothing happened. That's right out of the playbook.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah, like what? Like just come in, hey, you want me to make you a grilled cheese sandwich? Like you just
Yeah.
completely are a mess from like a 3 hour ugly cry fest argument. Like, hey, you want a grilled cheese? And you're like, what the? And he's like, what? What are you? What's the
Yeah.
matter?
Look, everything's fine. I thought we were
Right?
over
I
this.
thought
Isn't,
we're good.
yeah.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
She,
really, it literally. The term gaslighting, by the way, comes from an old Alfred Hitchcock movie where the guy literally drives his wife insane by convincing her the gaslight's an actual gas light on the garage. He can drives her insane by convincing her it's on when it's really off.
yeah.
That's where the term comes from. So you
Yeah.
question your perceptions, your judgments. By the end, I bet you don't know which way was up, what to think or feel, what to say or
No.
do.
I felt it was crazy. And that
Yeah.
a great example of him gaslighting me in the relationship was this was like right when things were about to explode is we're sitting next to each other on the couch and he grabbed his phone and I saw the dating app Hinge and Snapchat on his phone. And I was like,
Mm,
what the fuck? And like we
mm.
made eye contact and he got up and went to the bathroom really quick and was in there for a while. And he came back, I was like, do you have Hinge on your phone? He's like, no. What are you talking about? I was like, can I see your phone? So he showed me his phone and where the two apps were on his phone were completely gone. And I was
Deleted
like,
them.
you just had Hinge and Snapchat on your phone. I was like, I don't even have Snapchat or Hinge. Like, what
Yeah,
are you talking about?
classic gaslighting there.
Yeah, that was the final straw where like
But
I
you
started to
knew what you saw beyond a shadow of a doubt. You
I
saw
knew what
those
I
apps.
saw, but
Yeah.
again, like my sense of
But you
self and
questioned
trust
it.
in myself,
Yeah.
I was like, I must be going crazy. Why would I see dating apps? Like we live together.
Mm,
How could he
mm.
even be on dating apps if like, because live in the same city and like my single
Yeah.
friends would see him on dating apps. I was like,
Right, right, right.
how would this even work?
Hmm.
Um, yeah. So that was that. And then
So has the
I'm trying.
volcano exploded yet, or what? When did the volcano
Volcano,
actually
yep. So
blow
that
up?
was the start of the eruption.
Mm,
I see that on his phone. He was going out of town that next day for a bachelor party,
okay.
and I had an ovarian cyst rupture in my body because
Ouch.
I was
Ouch.
so stressed. Yes, like my body was
Oh,
screaming at like my when I tell you like I was a shell of a human being. I did not
were
know what
you?
was up, what was down.
Really?
Like
Okay.
yeah, to like probably to like my friends, they probably all thought I was fine, but like internally, I was like, I feel so lost, confused. I don't know what's happening in my relationship anymore.
Yeah.
Anyways, so he goes on the bachelorette party at the ovarian cyst rupture. Um, and then he goes to the bachelorette party the next day. And then like throughout the weekend, I'm with friends, it's healing, things are fine. He comes back from the bachelorette party. And every time he just came around me in the apartment, my body, like the pain was so strong in my cyst. I was like, what the fuck is happening? So I have him take me to the emergency room. We're in the emergency room for like 8 hours, sitting by each other. It's COVID-ish time, so we still have face masks on. So we're sitting next to each other, and like he's on his phone, but he can't like swipe up because the face mask on. So he has to type in his phone number or this phone passcode. I see that his phone passcode is not what it was when we first started dating. I was like, that's so weird. Why would he change it?
Why?
So
Right.
as he's typing it in each time, I'm like glancing over, trying to memorize it. And then I'm writing it down in my notes app to like see all the different
Okay.
combinations.
Okay. You're learning. You're learning.
I was learning. I started to
Mm,
like I was connecting the dots. I was investigating.
yeah.
And then that night we get in a huge fight again about sex. And he's like, why would I want to have sex with you? Like we're just explodes. So nothing happens. And then the next day he comes to me and like we sleep in different rooms. He's like, oh, I'm so sorry, love you, blah, blah, whatever. Then the next day, this is when everything explodes. So I'm in the office room studying and he is in the kitchen and I hear him pick up his phone and he goes, oh, hey, you, and like this really flirty voice. And then
To
he
someone
runs out
else,
of our
not
apartment.
to you, to someone else.
Not to me, yeah,
Yeah.
to
Oh,
someone
okay.
on the phone. And then he
Right.
runs out of the apartment. And
Runs
like,
out of the apartment.
yes, and like
He's not
that
very
cyst.
discreet or smart, this guy at all, is he?
No, to what my therapist would say, she's like, this is the moment where the addiction took over his life. He couldn't control it anymore. And I completely agree. And
Yeah.
so that same pain came back in my body. He's like, oh my God, what the fuck is happening? I just knew, so I was like, I knew it was a girl. He comes back inside because he's never like gone to take a phone call outside. That's weird. So he comes back inside and like, I will never forget this. He was so ecstatic, so high on life, just so happy, just like, bouncing for joy. He's like, oh my God, it's so nice outside. Like, we should go on dates today. Like, gives me a back massage. I'm like, why are you so happy? Who are you just talking to? Like, my red flags are going
Yeah.
off all over
Yeah.
the place.
Okay.
He's like, oh, I was just like talking to my dad about this like insurance stuff. I was like, okay. Then again, I was like, we live together. Why would he cheat on me? I'm sure I am the problem here. So then we go on dates throughout the day. It's like a great day. We're having so much fun together. And then that night we're watching TV and he falls asleep on my lap and his phone was sitting out. And his phone was always in his pocket all the time, no matter what. And so it was just so strange that I was out that day. I see it and I'm like, I'm going through your fucking phone. I go through his phone, I'm typing in
Because
all
you
the
have the
different
new password
combinations.
now, right? That you
All
that
that,
you
yeah, it
saw in
was
the
like,
hospital, right?
yeah, it was like six different attempts. The phone kept getting
Mm.
disabled because I wasn't getting it right. I was like, oh my God, like,
Oh,
please don't like, I was like shaking, hyperventilating.
oh
And
wow.
then, yeah, it was a lot. And then I get access to the phone. And within 3 minutes, I start going through his like text messages. And he had a text message with like one of his old roommates from like 5 years ago. I was like, that's weird. They don't talk anymore. So I
A
click on
guy
it.
or a girl?
Guy.
Uh-huh.
I click on it and it is just all these nudes. It is a porn star sending nudes to him, being like,
Oh,
hey, my
okay.
name's so and so. Your girlfriend sent me to you. To which he replies, like, Jess sent you to me? My name's not Jess. I'm like, who the fuck is Jess? So I'm going through the thread. They're talking about getting a hotel room together. He's sending him her dick pics.
Okay.
She says she's an nymphomaniac. He goes, I'm an nymphomaniac too. They're
Of course,
talking about
yes.
like
Mm.
what fantasies they can do together. He's like, what's off limits? What can I do to you? Like, when can I see you? Like, you're so stunning. And then he was like, can we FaceTime? Because Jess has sent me a catfish before. And again, I'm like, who the fuck is Jess? And so that phone call that I heard in the apartment where he ran out, he was FaceTiming the porn star. Um,
Oh, okay.
yeah. And so I looked back at the time of the FaceTime, I was like,
Like you
wow,
could
that's who
tell there
he
was
was.
a something in the text that showed a FaceTime, like it left a trail or an
No,
indicator.
he was like, can we talk in 2 minutes? I'm on a meeting. And she goes, yeah, yeah. She sends like a video of her. And he's like, well, I guess that's enough, but let's still FaceTime. And
Okay.
so he goes to FaceTime. Comes back and he's like, hi, oh, that was so great to like chat with you. Like, I can't
Okay.
wait. It's like,
Hmm.
what's off limits, blah, 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 going into all that. And then saying he's like dated, he name drops this other porn star he's dated. And I'm like, who the fuck is this guy? Like,
Who
I
is this
was
guy?
so terrified. It was so like my body was just shaking. It was
Okay.
awful.
And his
Um,
head's on your lap while you're doing
his head
this?
is literally on my lap. And so
And
I
he's
take a
sleeping.
video. Yeah, he's sleeping. I take a video of the whole conversation because I know I was like, no one is going to believe me because everyone thinks he's the most perfect angel of a
Yeah.
human being.
Okay.
And I also know the main reason I took the video is like, I know he's gonna gaslight the fuck out of me, and I'm not
Yep.
gonna believe that I saw any of this. Like
Yep.
I knew that it would all be
Yeah.
I knew he would be able to convince me out of it. So I
Wow.
took the video for like my own proof. And then I wake him up, like, who the fuck is Jess? To which he's like, what are you talking about? And I grab his phone, I just start like sliding through the conversation. And his face is just
Yeah.
complete freeze, just like I'm like, what the fuck is going on? Like, we need to talk. And he's like, I don't know what you're talking about. Someone must have taken my phone. And
Yeah.
granted, we
Yeah.
were on
Amazing. It's like you're
right.
literally holding the evidence right there and they still deny it.
Yeah. Yeah. I look
Yeah.
back and like I have to laugh on it. That's the only way you can find
It's
it to be
right.
not so depressing. Like I had to have
Yeah.
humor about it.
Yeah. It's so
Um,
absurd. It's almost
it's
laughable. It's
yeah,
laughable.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. And then I like click the dick pics that he was sending her and it's like, oh, someone took your phone and just like had your
Took
pictures
a
while
picture
we were
of
on
your dick
dates.
without you knowing it. Wow.
Right. It's
That's
like I know
amazing,
what it
man.
looks like what,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so then he's like, you just like this, no, someone took my phone. And when he said that, I lost it. I freaked out. Like the conversation did not go well. Like I was screaming, I was throwing things at the wall. Like I completely
Yeah.
no.
Meltdown.
And yeah, meltdown for sure. And I looked at him and he just like in that moment, he looked like a complete stranger. I was like, you are not like the person I know. You're not the person I love. You are not the person you have pretended to be all these years. Like what I was terrified. Um,
You said
oh,
that
I'm
be
getting a little emotional.
why yeah, no, it's okay. You
Yeah.
said that before. I was so scared or terrified. Like, what do you terrified of what, Mandy?
Terrified of like who he never did anything to physically harm me. I want to make that completely clear. But in that moment, I was like, you could, like knowing the stat that usually the the way girls are murdered, it's like from a
Someone
boyfriend
they
or
know,
whatever.
usually a
Yeah. And I
partner.
was like, I just found out this huge thing. You are like twice my size, who's a very buff guy, very fit. I was like, you could hurt me in an instant. I don't know who you are. I don't know what you're capable of. Like, I see you're laying on my lap and I see you sending nudes to a porn star about getting a hotel room. I was like, I don't know who you are. Like yeah, it was just a terrifying feeling. Like, I don't know what you could do in this instant.
Like your reality just being shattered and
Yes,
almost like I
everything.
don't even know what's real, that kind
Yeah.
of fear.
Yeah. Like I was like, I can't trust myself. What if I've been
Hmm.
living with a complete sociopath? Like I was like, I don't know who you
Right.
are.
What's he capable
So
of?
yes, yeah.
Mm,
So I just
hmm.
kept screaming at him to get out and he wouldn't get out. And that was what was terrifying, was scaring me. It was like, I'm asking you to leave and like screaming to leave, crying, leave. And he was just standing there, like would not leave. So that went on for, I don't even know how long, but a while. The neighbors got involved because this was like midnight and I'm literally screaming, like, get the fuck out. Someone help me. Like it
Are
was
you in
an
an
incident.
apartment or a
I was in an
house?
apartment
An
complex.
apartment
Yeah.
complex. Okay.
So there was like
What did the neighbors do? They come over or?
the people who lived above us, thank God, thanks so much. There were two females. They called the police right away. They came like pounding on the door. I mean, not right away, but after a while, they came pounding on the door. Like, hey, what's going on? And I'm just like screaming at the top of my lungs, like, he's cheating on me with fucking prostitutes. I get him out, like, get him out. It's just like losing it. I've
Right.
lost it. And then like, oh, we called the police. The police are on their way. One girl like comes, she like sits by me. She's like, calm down. And
Oh,
also thankfully, yeah, I was just going through my breathwork teacher training right before this, where we were talking all about trauma, all about regulating the nervous
sure.
system, all about
Yeah.
breathing and how that calms you down. So I just started sitting there doing the practices that
Yeah.
I learned in breathwork to like calm myself down. I was like, okay, okay, like I can like
Yeah. Breath
breathe a
work's
little
great. I
bit.
do it. I do it all the time.
Yeah,
Hmm.
it's amazing. It saved my life that night, no doubt about it.
Mm.
Um, Police came, they're like, what's going on? And trying to tell them. Meanwhile, I'm like, I can't stay here. Calling my friend, she comes picks me up. Or I'm like going on the apartment, grabbing all my shit, tossing into like garbage bags, just gonna get me out of here as quick as possible. And so I leave that night and I never saw him again.
That was it. Wow.
That was it. Yeah. I wanted to see him again. I wanted closure. I wanted to talk about things. And so I left that night. The next morning, my friends heard about what happened. I was staying at my friend's house. They're like, let's go get your shit. Fuck that. Like, you're not going back. Wow. Um, I wasn't
Yeah.
expecting to get emotional about it. It's been a while.
It's okay. Take it. Take your time. Yeah. Take a breath. Take a few breaths. Yeah, it was very traumatic, Mandy, and the grief. It's obviously grief and emotion there that's still coming
Yeah.
up. So it's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So we tried having conversations about what happened after the fact, and it was still the light.
Sorry, my light went out. I gotta walk around here, turn it on.
Ugh,
Sorry.
no, you're fine. It's good
Uh,
timing. It made me laugh.
come on. I'm gonna have to edit this out after. Yeah, okay. Well, I mean, in a way, I'm glad this is very raw and real. I mean, I'm not happy you're crying, but I want guys to see this.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah. It's
because
been like
guys
15
guys
months.
when I meet clients, Mandy, they're so emotionally detached from the impact on their partner of their behavior. They're because they've
Yeah.
lived in this la la land for years sometimes, where I do what I want and there's no consequences.
Hmm.
And when you lie, you distort reality to serve you, and you
Hmm.
become more detached from reality. So I have to work with guys for months to teach them empathy to their
Wow.
partner.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's a total disconnect.
Yeah.
And these
Yeah.
aren't
It's
sociopaths, by the way. These are just,
no.
basically normal, nice, normal guys. They're just
Hmm.
regular dudes. I don't work with rapists and pedophiles and sociopaths anyway. I don't work with those people.
Yeah. Yeah. That's,
And the reason why is because there's an unlimited capacity for human beings to deceive themselves. So if you tell yourself it's no big deal and what she doesn't know won't hurt her 5,000 times over a decade, you literally believe that to the core of your being.
hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And yeah. And I know eventually, so we were going to have conversations to meet up, and then he was still just like lying, saying it was like a one-time mistake, saying he didn't know who
Oh,
this
so you're
Jess girl
still you're
was.
still talking to each
We
other
were
after this
texting, we were
texting.
texting because I was trying to plan like how to move out. Like I
Yeah,
didn't
you
want
got to
him to
get
be
your
there
stuff
when I'd
out and
come.
everything. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'd like give him a heads up when I was coming. I was like, leave. I'm like gonna be with friends, don't be there. Um, and then we're gonna meet up in person. Never ended up happening because eventually it was like it was just lie after lie after lie. It's like I already caught you in this big lie. you're continuously lying to me. There's no point in talking anymore. Like, it's one thing to lie and get caught in that, and then like be truthful and like tell everything that happened, but then to keep lying about stuff is like
So he just
not
kept
worth my
lying
fucking
and
time.
gaslighting you?
Yeah, he was like, yeah, it's like, oh, it's just a one-time thing. Like, I just slipped up because we got in a fight like 2 nights ago. So this random girl just like messaged me, and like I was never gonna actually like meet up with her. Like it was just like for fun for like 5 minutes, but it was like I didn't mean it, blah blah. Blah. And then yeah,
Okay.
only to find out like months later, there's this group. I can't give a lot of information, but it's basically like girls just posting there, giving like red flags about guys, being like, oh, watch out for this guy. Like most cities have them.
Oh,
And
okay.
yeah, and I was in that, and I was scrolling one day. So I originally posted about my ex, just like, hey, heads up, caught him with the porn star, like
Okay.
if anyone sees him.
Hmm.
And then like a few weeks later, I was scrolling in the group and saw another girl posted about him. Like, oh, this is interesting. And
A few
I
weeks
comment on a
later.
few weeks later, another girl already posted about him. But yeah. Um, and like, oh, it's interesting. And so I start reading the comments, and then I just I post on there saying what happened to me. And then so many girls started reaching out to me, like messages privately, like, oh my God, this guy reached out to me and like would give me the exact dates, the timestamp, the exact conversation. Like he was reaching out with this girl named Jess. They were on these polyamorous dating apps. So long story short, I found out he was doing it the entire relationship.
He was cheating on you the
And
whole time.
the entire
The
time
entire time.
entire time. And he
Okay.
was doing that before he had even met me. So like he was living the second life for a long,
Yeah.
long time.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. So I left. It's like there's no point in having conversation. We haven't talked since. I just
No regrets, eh? For leaving.
no,
Yeah.
no my kind of one of my only regrets is not leaving earlier, but I also know
Mm.
I needed to see what I saw to make me never go back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was going to ask you the emotional impact on you, but I think we've seen that and
Ugh.
we've talked about that. It was
Yeah.
devastating, like what I'm hearing, Mandy, and you know, feel free to add to this, but self-esteem just destroyed,
Gone.
confidence gone, mental health, like mentally unstable. Not that you're
Yeah.
mentally unstable, but just feeling crazy,
Feeling.
unstable, questioning yourself,
Yes.
probably anxiety, probably depression, probably
Yeah.
trouble sleeping, maybe appetite, gut, female issues, physical
Yep.
symptoms, right? All that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Spot on for all the emotions. And then something that was also really interesting was like the physical emotion or the physical symptoms that happened, which I think is really important because I don't think for men
Yeah,
listening to
share
realize like
about
how
that a
much
bit.
it's going to impact the female physically. Like
Mhm.
I had panic attacks every single day. I would
Wow.
wake up like, screaming with like night terrors, having nightmares of like him in it.
Wow.
I lost, I want to say 10 to 15 pounds in the first month because I literally couldn't eat because I was so nauseous. Like I remember there were 2 days where I went not having a single bite of food. Like I just like I was awful. I
Wow.
threw up almost every day, which might be
You
TMI. I also
threw
had
up almost every day.
yes, I also had diarrhea like almost every single day. Like it
Oh,
was just like my
wow.
body couldn't hold anything down. It was
Mhm.
I couldn't look in mirrors. Like anytime I'd walk by a mirror, I'd close my eyes. Like I could not look at myself naked at all. Like
Wow.
that was absolutely off the table for me.
Yeah.
Even when I'd shower, I'd like shower with my eyes shut to not see my body. When I go to the bathroom,
Really?
like yeah, like
Wow.
peeing, wiping, like
Okay.
eyes shut. Like it was such like a it's I think what a lot of men don't realize, again, one, you're emotionally cut off, but like the violation to the female body,
Mhm.
like our body is like the most sacred thing about us. And then to know that it has been double dipped, like shared with other women, especially in my
Mm.
case, where like he
Multiple
was
other
gonna have
women.
sex with a porn star and then come home and sleep with me.
Mhm.
Like that is just like I felt so disconnected from my
Defiled.
body. Yeah. And again, at the time, I thought all of it was my fault. So a lot of it was like hatred for my body, being like, you looking at my body, like you
Right.
caused all of this. Like this was your fault.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, the
Yeah.
physical, emotional. not sleeping, not eating, not also I like could not be around any man after that. Like even like when I'd be walking, like
Really?
walking across like the sidewalk, like if a man was approaching me, I'd walk to the other side. Like instantly, like every man just became so unsafe to me. Even like friends'
Right.
boyfriends and friends' husbands, like when they'd have me over and like if
Yeah.
they'd leave to go like if they like the friend would leave the room and it'd just be me and the guy friend or like I would tense up so much. Like I hated it. It was, and
Right.
again, like nothing physically. He never did anything physically to hurt me, but it
Mhm.
was just like the emotional impact and the
Mhm.
shock and the,
Mhm.
well, if I can't trust you, I can't trust anyone.
Yeah. Well, it's a trauma response. I'm sure you've learned this, and
Mm-hmm.
you become what, we call hyper vigilant. So
Mm-hmm.
no one's safe. You see danger even when there's no danger there. Everything feels like a threat, and your nervous system is goes on high alert, and it's really exhausting. And that's what leads
Yeah.
to a lot of those things that you explained, the psychosomatic, physical, somatic, symptoms, right?
Yeah.
What did you do? Let's we probably should wrap up in a few
Yeah.
minutes,
Yeah.
but for women watching this, maybe share about how you moved past this. What did you do for healing, and
Mm-hmm.
where are you now compared to then, and what did you do to recover from
Yeah.
this?
My gosh, there's so much I could say. So I never want to tell a woman if she should leave or not. Every relationship, every man, every girl is different. But for me, leaving was the absolute best decision because it got me out of
Yeah.
that cycle of abuse that I didn't even realize I was in at the time. And
Right.
after being out for a few months, I started to look back on the relationship very differently, and I could connect the dots a lot, and
Okay.
that was really helpful. It was really painful, but it was really helpful,
Mm,
and I think there's so much to do for healing. And that's what I try to talk about a lot in my podcast. So if you're listening, listen to that because that will go more in depth into
okay.
things. But getting into like meditation and breath work and just like slowing the fuck down. Like you are in
Mm,
such a state of trauma and confusion and just like
mhm.
getting into nature, just grounding, like being around people who you feel you can be completely safe around. That helps a
Sure.
lot too.
Sure.
Um, but I know I got emotional during this, but looking back to where I was then to now, like now I I look back at who I was then, like I barely even recognize her. Like I was just like I was happy, I felt like I was in love, like things were good.
Yeah.
But now I'm like, I would never want that life. Like that at that
Right.
time, that was like my dream life. I had my dream partner, like everything was great. And now I look back at that and I was like, no, like that's not even interesting to me anymore. I feel even though I got emotional today, which hasn't happened in like months. I just, I don't know. I just feel so much better and confident, like more in my skin, like to the point where like now I want to help other girls going through it because it's
Yeah.
just such a clusterfuck that happens. And I think once you realize that it has nothing to do with you, it's not your fault, it's not your body, you didn't cause this, you can't control it, and you can't stop it. Like once you get that through your head and once you like believe it in your body too, I think things get so much easier because then you can look at the situation for what it was and you can kind of remove the emotional aspect to it. You can make, oh, this person was in a full-blown addiction. He didn't want to tell me because he probably didn't want to hurt my feelings and he knew I wouldn't be with him.
Yeah.
And yes, he was lying. And yes, what he was doing was not okay, but that's not the love that I want, and that's not the love I deserve. So I'm going to go find that elsewhere. But first, I'm going to focus on loving myself and being the partner to myself that I always wanted. So I
Beautiful. Love
think,
it.
yeah, I think that just makes things, the healing journey, easier to
Mhm.
comprehend. And I, I'm part of a support group where it's a lot of betrayed partners, especially a lot
Mm,
in marriages. And I just see these messages come up on my phone every day of these married women who are with their partner and the partner clearly isn't doing the work to get the help and these women just seem so defeated and broken and just so desperate for help and
yeah.
I look at that and like I'm so thankful I did not stay because I know he was not ready to get the help he needed
Hmm.
and not every man is like that. I do think some men do change and some men are ready for it, but I think it's so important to know the distinction. Like, is he ready to get help? Is he going to do the work? But also don't sacrifice your mental health for that. Like, if you need to
Yeah.
take a break from each other while you can both focus on your healing and then come back if that's best, but like just don't stay in it thinking that you're the reason that caused it and so that you're going to be able to fix it too.
Yes. No, no, I
Yeah.
agree. And there's nothing, if someone has a problem, like I call it compulsive sexual behaviors.
Hmm.
It means the same as a sex or porn addiction. Um, Nothing you do can make an alcoholic stop drinking. Nothing you do can make a heroin addict stop shooting up.
Hmm.
Nothing you do can make a porn addict stop looking at porn. It's important for people to understand this. Okay. They have to be ready.
Hmm.
They have to be ready. And what's interesting about your situation is, like you said, when you left, it was not, his response was not remorse, taking ownership, getting help. It was continue to lie and gaslight and bullshit you. And so that probably it confirmed your decision
Completely.
even more,
Yeah.
right? Like, I
Yeah.
absolutely made the right decision here.
Yeah, completely.
Mm,
Yeah. And again, not every, like if a man is showing up and he's like taking ownership, being like, yes, I'm sorry, yes, I did this,
mhm.
like, yes, you deserve better. I think
Yeah,
my reaction maybe would have been a little different. I don't know, because it didn't happen. But
yeah,
yeah, the continuously lying, I was like, nah, I'm out. That's enough.
yeah. Well, if you were my client, like, I don't tell people to stay or leave relationships either. That's not
Hmm.
really my job.
Yeah.
But I would have 100% supported what you did,
Thank you.
right? I wouldn't, yeah, I wouldn't have said, oh, you got to leave him, but I would be, you know, like, what did your therapist do? She probably just kind of pointed things out, brought things to your attention, made you think about it, and
Yeah.
then said, it's up to you. That's what I would have done basically, right?
Yeah.
But if you would have came to me a week later and be like, this happened, I left him, I walked out, I would have been good for you.
Yeah, that's
Good
basically
for
what my
you.
therapist did. Because
Right.
I was
Okay.
like, I moved, I left that night. Most of my
Mm,
stuff's out of the apartment. She's like, good. Like, I'm
yeah.
glad you left. And then I did have doubts, like throughout. I think that's also important for like women to hear too. Like, I had a lot of doubts after I left, where I was like, oh my
Sure.
God, was that too much of a rash decision? Like, should I have
Mhm,
stayed with him? Could I have changed him? Like, was I
mhm.
overreacting? Like, oh, I miss him. He's my best friend. Like, there's so many doubts, which I just want to normalize. The
Yeah,
doubts, that's normal, but that doesn't mean you need to be with them if they were showing bad behavior.
yeah.
And
And
now I
for
don't
any
doubt it.
yeah, and for anyone watching who's wondering, what are the reasons that I should think of staying? It's basically some admission on the part of him that, yes, he has a problem. Yes, he realizes that he needs to change because this behavior is not sustainable. And yes, he will go get help. And then actually going to get therapy, joining
Hmm.
a support group and going every week, being accountable for his actions, reading books and listening to podcasts and audiobooks about this and learning, and keeping a set of what I call bottom line behaviors, right? So for
Hmm.
me, because I used to look at porn and lie about my sexual behavior. And so I've been sober for 20 years. And when I mean that, what I mean is I don't use porn, I don't masturbate, I don't have lies or secrets, and I don't have inappropriate contact with other women. Four bottom lines. So they
Good.
set bottom lines and they stick to them.
Hmm.
That's
Yeah,
called
that's,
recovery, right?
yeah,
And they
yeah,
build empathy for you and they take responsibility for the ways that they've hurt you. And they'll need a good therapist to help them do that. And if you're a partner or you're a guy listening to this and you want to get help, go find someone that's specifically qualified. They need the initials CSAT or AASAT. That's what I am. After their initial, they need to be trained in this stuff because a lot of therapists, they won't help you. They won't be able to.
yeah. And that's a great
Mhm.
point for women too. I've heard a lot of stories where women go to therapists and just get re-traumatized after the fact
Yeah.
because
Oh, no
they're
big
not
deal. Everyone
educated.
watches porn. Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
make sure you go to the right type of therapist for sure. So
Yeah.
yeah,
You
don't
you
cause
want to
yourself
find
more
someone
harm.
who, when you're searching for a therapist, you want to look for the term betrayal trauma recovery. betrayal trauma, something like that, and screen them out and say, like, what's your position on porn? Do you work with women who have been married to porn and sex addicts? And, get a feel for them. Sounds like
Hmm.
you found a great one, so I'm sure that was
Yeah,
helpful.
thankfully I already had her, which
Yeah.
without even knowing it. That was
Yeah.
such a gift.
Yeah, amazing. Okay. Uh that was great. Thanks for just, keeping it real, Mandy, and
Hmm.
sharing. And any final thoughts, like, for a young woman or a man, either or, maybe a guy who's using, and the light's starting to go on in his head. Maybe he's in
Yeah.
a relationship, and he really does love her, and he's really questioning his porn behavior. Anything you want to say to him, or to a woman dealing with that?
Yes, both. One, to men, if you are even questioning it, even have like the slightest question about it, just talk in your relationship. Just talk to your girlfriend or wife, whoever it is, about just be honest, just be vulnerable. Tell her it started way before her and that you're embarrassed about it, there's shame about it, but like you want to work and you want to figure it out. Just be honest with her
Hmm.
so she doesn't have to find it on her own because that is going to be the lying part is honestly like the worst part about it. It's not even the porn, it's the continuous lies. Like I wish my ex
100%.
would have just told me and that
Yes.
yeah, yes. Um, and to girls, if any girls listening and you feel like you're alone or confused and you just need someone to talk to, I am always open to chat. I'm obviously not a therapist. I won't give therapy advice, but if you just want to chat like how it feels, you feel like your friends and family don't understand because that was something that was really hard for me. And I know a lot of betrayed partners, it's just like you feel so isolated and no one can relate.
Mm. Mhm.
I am always open to talk because
Mhm.
sometimes you just need like an hour conversation with someone to just know you're not going crazy and you're validated and it will get better. It will get better. I think that's the biggest thing. That was the worst thing to ever happen to me, but it helped me create my best life that I'm so thankful of. So
Yeah. Yeah,
healing is
and
possible.
no, thanks, Mandy, and I wanna reiterate that. You asked earlier, can guys change? Yes. I have a
Hmm.
long list of clients who have abstained from all compulsive sexual behaviors, not just for 6 months, 6 years, 10 years, longer, completely changed men, completely sober. So recovery is possible, and all the behaviors you mentioned, I've heard it all. I've had guys that have done all of that, and they're sober for years.
Amazing.
Right? But
Good.
and I
I'm
wanna
proud of them.
yeah, well, it takes a lot of work. And I wanna
Hmm.
reiterate one thing you said, this is so important, and guys, listen, please, to this. Your partner, your wife, your girlfriend does not need a perfect guy. She needs an
Hmm.
honest guy. She needs
Yep.
an
She already
honest guy.
loves you.
She knows you're not perfect already. She
Hmm.
already loves you, and she will not leave you because you jerked off to porn last Tuesday. She will leave you if you destroy and betray her trust and
Yes.
shatter her reality by lying, either by omission or directly.
Hmm.
That's what will sink this ship.
Yes, I applaud all of that. That, yeah, it's the line that,
Yes.
yeah, it's,
Mhm.
yeah,
Okay. All right. It's been a great conversation. Good to see you again,
you
Mandy.
too.
And let's keep in touch, and good luck with the move.
Thank
And
you.
hopefully, maybe we'll connect in person one day, but definitely stay in touch. I love your posts. I'm trying to like and share, support you on there.
Thank you.
And I know you're doing the same to me. Keep
Yes.
up the great, great work.
Yes. Thank you. You too. Thanks for all the work you do.
Bye.
Bye.